time. Ready? So, hey, welcome to GreatLakes-TCG. My name's
Oh,
Jeff.
yeah.
Here we have with me Tyguy and Devonsama. Uh, you guys can please introduce yourselves.
I'm going
Uh,
first. Hey, it's this is Devonsama here. I have a pretty long-lasting background in card games, I guess. Mostly notable in Dragon Ball. I guess Masters now. A lot of tops and a couple event wins there. Other than that, like not too much going on in One Piece for me, I guess. Like I'm trying to change that though. I got some
You're gonna
Stored
be at
Treasure
Nats.
Cup
You're gonna
wins,
be at Nats.
but
Yeah,
that's it.
you
I'm
got
about
store
to
treasure
tear it up
Nats.
in Nats.
All right, there we
I
go.
I I bubbled my invite at a store regional, but it's all right
Perfect.
because we're gonna get that LCQ dub.
I
Yes,
believe
sir.
in you. And Tyguy, I think you guys don't need any introduction to him, but
yes, I'm Tyguy. I've played card games for a few years. I know the GreatLakes-TCG guys very well. I've not showed up here before though. I played Shadowverse and Legends of Runeterra in my past. In One Piece, I've done very well. I got top 16 at Dallas Nationals and Treasure Cup top 8, as well as some other really good top 16 finishes elsewhere as well.
yes. And so essentially what we're doing today is two things. One, we're going to review the OP09 meta as it's come from Japan over to the English side. And what happened, where things went wrong, where things are staying the same. Two, we're announcing a 3v3 that's happening this Saturday, December 28th, 1 p.m. Eastern. The link to watch that, it's going to be 100% streamed. It's a 3v3, so it's fun. The link to watch that will be in the description. And hey, if you're locally and you watch this and you want to come out, it's going to be at Galaxy Busters. You could find the information in our Discord. Go from there. That said,
Join the Discord. Actually,
join the
join
Discord
it.
exactly. That said, let's just go and move on. So this is really just kind of part of our Road to National series. I know Ty Guy's been testing. I don't know if I want to reveal your deck, but uh, yeah, I know you've been testing a lot of different decks in your internal circle. We've been testing a lot of different decks in our internal circle. But just to bring us up to date, kind of reviewing the Japanese uh, tournament scene. For Hyogo Regional, it was BY versus BY in finals, and the Aichi Regional here, you could see it was the Doflamingo versus Shanks in finals. And those were like the last two tournaments. Obviously, we've kind of went over these tournaments in my last video, where you've had, a Purple Luffy win one, you've had two Blackbeards win, and you had Lucci win the very first one. So picking off there, this was kind of like the don't mind the power creeps, the Gecko abusers, stuff like that. But essentially speaking, this was kind of like the shape of the meta or the tier list going into our English meta. So this is what Japan kind of put everything. They put Dofi number one, Shanks number two, Teach number three, and then I guess Lucci and BY were still doing tops and they were still performing well. BY coming off a win itself. Uh, Second to last tournament, and then honestly, Purple Luffy was not performing at all in Japan, which was except for its one win. Its tops were really small compared to Doflamingo. And so why I brought these guys on is because we want to have a discussion going into our most recent English meta and how things have changed. So any thoughts, guys?
So I think starting out, at least for me personally, I think Purple Luffy performed way better than I thought
Mm-hmm.
it generally would, coming from Japan. Of course, like you're looking here with like ranked stats, it's like nothing impressive. But matchup wise, it's performed a lot better than I thought. Especially with just how our meta has shaped up. Especially with BY also being a little better than I thought. Compared to what we saw in the East.
Yeah. I agree. I think Purple Luffy, especially in this most recent Treasure Cup, that kind of like that was like our precursor to Nats event, I guess, where like Purple Luffy really showed out. And obviously Doflamingo did its thing. It got the numbers that people expected. Lucci came up. That was good. Abani in the finals against the Shanks, which was unexpected finals that nobody expected, but it was really good. And it kind of had a different perspective on people's thoughts of like Shanks at the current moment because people have been very indifferent about how Shanks should look, and so that's been stirring up a little more interest in like, oh, how should I build Shanks? How should I, build it to match up against so and so deck? And then the big surprise was the no Blackbeard in Top Cut, which was
Yeah,
very
that
shocking to
was
most. That was very, very big.
I was not expecting that, especially from the de facto quote unquote potential number 2, number 3 in the meta, huh?
Yeah, the like Boogeyman deck was just nowhere in sight.
Exactly.
But then there's like, you still got a Bonnie in there. You got a couple Luccis. You got Purple Luffy. You got Smokers. You even had Smokers in there, which was shocking. So
Yeah.
that was huge.
Speaking of Lucci and Tyguy, I want to hear your thoughts on this. It's like the new. So now with the downfall, I'm saying downfall. It's not. I don't think he's gone. I think he's still potentially top 5. But like with the downfall of Blackbeard, a lot of people are turning back to Lucci, especially for Nats coming up in about a week now. What are your thoughts on Lucci? Especially because I know you've dabbled in Doflamingo, you've dabbled in Shanks, you've dabbled in Purple Luffy, you've played Nami, so you've played actually you've played a good majority of all the decks on this list right now. So where would you put Lucci?
It's kind of hard to say. Like the problem with Lucci is that it's a very polarizing deck.
Mm-hmm.
In the way that you have these decks like BY and Blackbeard, which like may not be like the best deck to bring to an event like Nationals, but like you still have a chance of fighting like one to two of those decks in like a Swiss run, and like if you fight that in the Swiss run, you're having like a horrible time, right? Or also like Nami for example too. Just looking at these like matchup stats, like Nami is like not the
Yep.
worst positioned here either. It's like not as good as it was in the past, but it's still like positioned like okay. And so like you have these three like very big liabilities that have a very high chance of appearing even on like a top cut as well.
I can see that.
That it can be bad, and your edge you gain in some of these other matchups is not large at all. Like you're not that crazy good into Doflamingo, unless
It's like
you like heck
50%. Like this 52, like this 2% doesn't matter. Right? That's like variance. So honestly, like it's
yeah.
basically 50-50 into Dofi. You're going 50-50 into Shanks. Honestly, I'm very surprised with this. I feel like whoever goes first is actually kind of favored in this matchup. But I guess on average, Lucci's high roll does beat Purple Luffy's high roll, so I could see that.
But there's this like other problem with Lucci where like you need your deck to fight on these like multiple angles against this like very highly rated metagame where like you want Soap Sheeps for Dofi, but like Soap Sheeps are doing absolutely nothing into like Shanks for example.
That's fair. Yeah.
Or like you want like Ice Ages and stuff for these like Shanks on like Purple Luffy and stuff like that are coming up. But like it's almost a dead card into Dofi. So
Yeah. And even like
I
kind
just
of dead
think
into BY, right? Because they don't, unless you're on the 9 Kaido, that is that.
yeah, it's also like then the BY
Yeah.
as another example. It's just my problem with Lucci is that it's just hard to play in a highly varied Swiss environment, and then into a top cut where you can have these like silver bullet like decks that if they can get into a top cut, they can dominate a top cut like Nami or Blackbeard or BY. If Lucci fights one of those decks, you're just like kind of dead in the water.
No, that's fair. No, I could actually see that. And Devin, I do want to talk to you because I know you've seen this deck around the locals. And the new hotness, look at Bello Betty over here. I know it's like ignore the Dofi matchup. Ignore the Dofi, right? But look at this green. Look at
That's
this.
a lot of
Look at
green. Hey,
this.
I will say, shout out Raul. That's like our Bello Betty believer. He has been preaching it since the '09 format started, where he was like, "Yeah, Bello Betty can actually do well," and
Yeah.
it hasn't done anything yet from what we've seen. And like,
No.
I don't really
No. I mean,
expect
we've
it
had
to
one major
really.
event, but it might show
Yeah,
up at the 3v3, and I think it is showing up at the 3v3. And so if it is, I'm definitely putting that thing on stream.
yeah.
That said, uh, do you like?
It's
Do you guys feel like it's actually going to be something that to show up on Nats? Do you like? Do you think one tops? One of the top 32s? Do you think it goes to Bella Betty? Either of you two?
I think it could happen.
it
People like
could.
we've seen it with. It might be in the same spot as Nami. I'm not super familiar with it as I've not encountered it much in testing. Or
Gotcha.
like if I have, I've beaten it. Now, like an important thing to like note is in Madison, Wisconsin, we had a Bello Betty go very far actually. Like the top tables.
Wait,
So
was
it
it
doesn't like surprise me a
8.5?
ton that she's here. Yeah, I believe it was 8.5. There was like a Bello Betty in like top tables, and it was like sweeping some of the Doflamingos who weren't ready. Um, and that Bella Betty, from what I know, is like the deck that can very easily capitalize on like not enough information about what the deck does, the deck's card pool,
If you swing into it
and
without knowing what triggers you potentially are swinging into right now,
Yeah.
it can catch people off guard really quick.
Yeah.
or
I
like
think Bellobetti
Oh, sorry,
falls
go on.
into the I think Bellobetti falls in that slot of like the same slot as like Smoker, where it's like if you don't know enough about what the deck can do and what its possibilities are, you'll just get smoked by it. No pun intended, but like it'll literally just run you over because you're not familiar with what it does, and I think that's why the green is so so far across the board. It's like people are running these decks, you don't test against it, and then like when it comes up, you're like, oh shoot, like they just popped off on me, and like what am I doing?
Exactly.
Yeah. No, this is also like ranked sim data, so like
True.
you have a lot more
with the grain of salt.
uninformed players.
You gotta put an asterisk next to like all of this. Like
Yeah.
Not to make this video drag, we made our announcement. We talked a little bit about OP09 and kind of how it's shaped up. We think Blackbeard's down, Purple Luffy's a little bit up. Shanks is kind of finding its little niche, I guess. I think people are finding out that Control Shanks might have actually been the better version. Based off the most recent results with the new Treasure Cup. I know a lot of people are testing that list and actually liking it. That said, we got 1 week. If you had to put your money on it, give me like a top cut spread. Like just give me a spread. So you got 32 spots. Give me like just give me like percentages. 30% what, 20% what. What do you think's getting there? And do you also think? And I like this question. Do you feel like we're gonna hit like another Italian Luffy situation? Do you think there's a rogue thing, like a rogue deck coming around that people haven't really tested that can potentially make it?
I think of one deck off the top of my head that I think will or could warrant a spot, and I think not a lot of people give it enough credit. And I don't think I want to say it yet because there is a possibility that one or two people may play it. So I will not say. But
okay.
Besides that, I think overall, I think there will be a high number of Dofi. I think the Treasure Cup number of Dofi was like pretty clear. Like I think that'll probably end up being the number, like around like 13 or so Dofis that'll probably get in, maybe 12.
Just to go over
I think there might.
Just to remind everyone, so to go over it, there was 13 Dofis, 9 purple Luffys, and I think it was just 2s of the rest of like, there was 2 BY, 2 Lucci, 2 Smoker, and
It was
a Bonnie. And there's like 3 Shanks, I think.
Yeah, there was like a few. There was like a couple Shanks, a Bonnie, and then like some Luccis and some other stuff. Yeah. But I think with that, I think there's actually going to be a little bit more Lucci. I think people are going to default back to playing Lucci again because they feel comfortable with the deck. And with Blackbeard having a rough time in the current West format and people loving Lucci, like they just don't want to stop playing the deck. So like Lucci's still going to have a good showing. I think it'll maybe take up a few spots in top cut.
I can definitely see it, especially with the amount of
people. I think Shanks will probably get a few tops. I think Purple Luffy's numbers will go down a bit. I don't think we'll get another 9 or Purple Luffy topping number, but it'll probably still hold its own. I think Bonnie still might get a slot. I don't know about Smoker getting back in there. And I actually think maybe 1 or 2 NLs get in there. I want to say.
I could see it. No,
maybe 1 or 2.
Like the because we all expect, and Ty, correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm expecting at least like a 30% Dofi spread, if not higher.
Yeah,
that's all I'm seeing being tested right now. Like in the high table, like in the high ranking tables, it's all Dofi mirrors. Like it's kind of insane. So yeah, so I do expect at least 30% plus representation of Dofi at Nats. But Ty, what do you think?
I echo most of Devin's opinions here, except about the like Lucci Blackbeard spread thing. I don't think people will gravitate back to Lucci as fast, and I think there'll be more Blackbeards at Nationals compared to what we have here at the Treasure Cup.
28% is gonna deter people.
It's not as bad as 28% anyway. Like I even
it's not that bad.
Like I even had a game like in last Treasure Cup where like it was very close into Blackbeard. We were in this like top decking situation, and you get a lot like of these close situations against Dofis, and then like other than that, your matchup spread is like very good. And I think like with a higher skill level of Nationals players and Blackbeard requiring more skill, that it would perform much better in a Nationals format, where also people are choosing to not bring the best deck and choosing to like gain advantage by beating the best strategies. That Blackbeard will be better in those situations as well. So
Okay.
Okay.
And I will say, so one last thing. BY Luffy. So I've been saying this for a little bit now. I've been, even in my other videos, in my guides, I do a tier list at the end, and I've been putting BY Luffy in either S or A tier. And I've echoed these opinions somewhere online. Some people agree, some people don't. So do you feel like if Blackbeard truly does come down in terms of its play rate, isn't BY Luffy just so set to kind of take on? Like, I know it has a slightly bad matchup to Purple Luffy, but with Blackbeard gone, like the rest of it's like slightly favored into Dofi, slightly favored into Shanks, obviously favored into Lucci, and then sure it's not that good into like the rest, like the Rogue, like Nami, Bonnie, Bello Betty, but like do we actually expect to see these in a standard tournament run? So I don't know. I could
Um,
definitely see BY's
I
kind of
I think
clawing their way in there.
if if BY gets a good bracket run, then I think maybe
Yeah.
one or two will get in there. I do expect them to like most will probably hit at least a Blackbeard or so in their run, and maybe a Bonnie. I don't know.
Hmm.
Like I don't know the number of like Bonnies or Blackbeards or whatever. Blackbeard probably get a pretty decent representation. Bonnie, I don't think not as much.
So for
Um, and
Blackbeard was the
Nami as well.
third most played deck in this most recent Treasure Cup, or sorry, fourth most played deck. It went Dofi, Purple Luffy, Shanks, then Blackbeard, if I remember right.
Right. Which sounds about right
Yeah.
for the meta. So I think if its worst matchups are like decks that you can probably avoid in a tournament run, I think it'll probably have a decent showing.
Okay.
Uh yeah, that's just my thoughts on that, I guess.
All right. Any
I
last
don't want to
minute?
see it, but you know,
I know. Well, actually, you're as potential Purple Luffy players, we do like it. Either way,
true.
thank you guys for watching. Tyguy, Devin, thank you for joining me. Any last minute thoughts?
ban Gecko Moria. I want this BY deck
Please,
off. I want this
please,
BY deck off my table by Monday, bro.
please get that car out of here, bro.
Honestly, like it's kind of warped the meta too much. I know it's less prevalent this set, but it's still like, oh, come on, man. Lucci is
Ban
coming in.
Gecko,
Like, look at this. Lucci
ban
keeps coming
Burgess,
in.
ban Gum Gum Giant. Clean meta.
Gum Gum, no, don't hit the giant like that. Either way, thank you guys for joining me. Please watch the 3v3, 1 p.m. Eastern. Link in the description. Have a good one.